Hey you all, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome back to our Summer Shorts series. Today I've got an interview that my NoTillGrowers.com co-founder Jackson Rolette did with Casey Ostwinch of Honeytree Farm about cover crop termination and usage on a small scale. Super cool interview, and we're big fans of Casey around here. And of course, these Summer Shorts are bonus material that is entirely brought to you by our Patreon members at patreon.com/farmerjesse. So please go there, go to that site to support this work. And at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs this week to JM Fortier, Meredith Lay. Thanks, Meredith. Love and Fresh Flowers, Brenda Fair, Seeds and Soil Farm, and Bountiful Harvest Farms. Thank you to all of our supporters, and remember that if you get one of those bonus shout-outs, you will also get a shout-out in the fall when the season officially gets going. So, 2 for 1. Okay, enough from me. Let's get to this amazing interview between Jackson Rolette and Casey Ostwinch of Honeytree Farm.
Today we have with us Casey Ostwinch of Honeytree Farm in North Carolina. Now, we met Casey for the first time. I met Casey for the first time at Wild Hope Farm in South Carolina. They had put on a half-day no-till intensive on quite a large scale, 10 to 20 acres. And we talked with Sean Yadchek about cover cropping and had his presentation up on NoTillGrowers.com. And then I met Casey again at a No-Till Growers event with Daniel Mays of Frith Farm at Rough Draft Farmstead. Only a year, I guess a little over a year into their market garden, Casey's already implementing some of the things that he learned from Sean, from Daniel, about cover cropping on a market garden scale. So Casey, thank you for taking time out of the busy growing season. It's May. To talk to us about cover crops.
Yeah, no problem, man.
So first, can you give us a quick rundown of your size and your scale and some of the equipment you're using so we can get a good idea of your farm?
Yeah, it's like 3/4 of an acre total probably, and it's all 100-foot beds organized into 10-bed plots. And Corey and I started doing this full-time this year, and we most of it is kind of after JM style, so the BCS, except we don't rotary plow the walkways. Basically just use the BCS as a tilter and use the BCS to break new ground and any other random job that needs done. We sell at 2 markets, in Hickory, North Carolina, and Charlotte, North Carolina, and 2 restaurants when they're active and open outside of the pandemic. And we also sell from our farm on Fridays. Yeah, Caterpillar tunnels, BCS, hand tools. Really is how we roll.
Yeah, and that seems to be at sort of the scale. Most of our list is that, 3/4 of an acre to 2 acres and a lot of hand tools, maybe a BCS. So recently you expanded your growing space. Can you walk us through exactly how you did that from start to finish? Because I think you did a really good job with it. I've been watching the progress.
Well, I started initially by just breaking ground first, from raw sod to build beds, and then tarping it for 2 weeks. That because I started in the fall of 2018, and I needed to plant stuff so we could have it over the winter. So I rushed it, just busted ground and built beds. And don't really recommend that way unless you have to do it. But we needed to start making money and stuff, and our goal was to farm together. And Corey worked full time, so I just went ham. So I built 3 plots that way, so 30 beds. And then the 4th plot, I tarped all winter. And then late winter, early spring, I pulled the tarp and rotary plowed it. And then the rotary plow, if you run it, if you start in the center and you just kind of go back and forth and put the wheel in the ditch, it tends to dig pretty good. But what you're left with overall is a level work ground. And there's some other context here. We're in North Carolina, Zone 7, warm season grasses, vigorous weeds, super intense rainfalls, think we're at about 30 inches a year of rain. We're like 5 months in, and the average is 45 inches. So that's why I work the ground initially, because I just bust it and like start from, it is tilling, but you till it once, then I start from like base ground, flat, like open, I don't know what the correct word is. But so I rotary plow it and then fill the beds with a shovel. So I only want to disturb the soil like that once, and then the shoveling's pretty easy. Just shovel walkways into the beds, and that is your raised beds. And then after that, according to the soil test, I'll amend the soil and use the PDR on the PCS and just work it in so the amendments are set. And then that's it. I don't do more than a half-inch till after that. So where this makes sense for the newer plots is because probably 80% of our plots were Bermuda grass. We ordered more tarps because we knew we were going to expand. And I tarped the heavy Bermuda spot in May and left it tarp all summer. And it killed everything. Like it was awesome. It killed it like very well. Actually, we just cultivated that plot yesterday. There's like no Bermuda grass coming back up through, and it's grown vigorously right now due to the heat, spring, and that worked pretty good. Same method on building the beds with that. And then the other plot, I had tarped it, killed the grass, used the rotary plow, built the beds, and then threw the cover crop seed down in the fall, the rye and clover. Did it in October, I think. And then we recently just got a new well because we needed more water, but we had a really weak well before. And so didn't have the luxury of like being able to water the cover crop. We were just coming out of a drought. We had one day where it rained, and I spread all the cover crop seed. It rained, and then I pulled the tarp back over that plot where the beds were built with the white side up, and like 2-3 days later, I think everything germinated like perfect. Yeah, that's how they got established. And actually today I mowed half of that cover crop down with a flail mower and then put the tarp back over it. And the other 5 beds, we put a tarp over it 3 weeks ago and didn't mow the cover crop at all, just left the tarp on, and it killed it down to pretty much nothing. Then we just pulled the tarp, I put some amendments down, and seeded into it.
Man, that's great. So a couple of follow-ups that I have. So you said you chose the rye and clover as a cover crop for that second plot, right?
Yeah.
And how did you determine the seeding rate? Did you go by feel, or was there a rate that you calculated to get that established?
I used John's rate from Wild Hope.
Well, and that's something that we can link to in the notes too. I'll go ahead and add the presentation, and people can flip through that because the rates are in there, and it's really informative. There's a lot of good stuff there about that.
John's the OG of cover crops, and he's also in the Southeast. And like that's the other thing. There's not a lot of material for the Southeast, so kind of lean towards the tarps a lot for things. That's like probably the best tool we have.
Gabe Brown mentioned on one of the last episodes, you have to use the advantage of your climate or of your zone.
Yeah, we have heat. I mean, I'm telling you, man, people like rip on it, call it the evil plastic, and that you're lazy and stuff. But I think it works here. It works too good to not do it. We cut tarps into 4-foot sections, and like I'll like flail mow like a bed. Like say I'm done with the arugula bed, I'll flail mow it and then tarp it, and like in a week or two. In a week in the summer, probably 2 weeks in the spring, I guess ready to go again. Makes sense.
And then another follow-up question about the cover crop that you tarp, and you said you're now planting into it. Before you tarped it, did you push it down or crimp it or mow it before you tarped it?
No, man, we just tarped it. It was small, so it wasn't like tall or anything, and we needed to seed it like. Yeah, the whole virus thing, we started getting sales and on-farm sales. We were like, whoa, we need to plant more now. So we put the tarp over it. And, yeah, man, it worked. So if you were to take, the cover crops, think of it as like a bed of arugula or something, a thick crop that you seed real dense. It's the same thing. Like it just breaks down. There's some organic matter and clean beds.
So when you pulled that back to seed or to plant, there wasn't any residue that you really had to deal with. It was ready to go. You could amend as normal and go ahead.
The only place there was residue was on the end, but that's because the wind blows it up and it gets sunlight. So like it took longer for it to die, but it was not much work to just hand pull those like 20 clumps out, and they're good.
You seeded, planted those beds. How are they doing right now?
They're good. Yeah, man. There's beet, radish, turnip, mustard greens, and lettuce mix coming up on them.
You've got quite a prolific YouTube channel for a couple of full-time farmers. We'll go ahead and put up those videos that reference what you've been doing with those plots and doing those cover crops in those plots on that market garden sort of BCS scale. Because that's really exciting.
Yeah, we were planning on crimping it like Daniel does. Like you put the board down or the T-post and step on it and crimp it. And then we're going to put squash in it. But we're planting for demand and trying to make a living doing this. It's our main goal. So I said, well, get that. Let's just mow it so we can see what's going to sell. Because the squash was going to be fried squash for a restaurant. So we scaled back on that and doing more roots now because we sow a lot of roots.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of people's crop plans change almost overnight once all this happened, and it's interesting also to see that you can work with those cover crops as things change and adjust instead of having to resign yourself to finishing out the cover crop and going ahead with the original plan. You can back up and change your plan even with the cover crop.
Yeah, you got like the flail mower and you have the tarp. That's a lot of power that you can use in your favor if you need to. And it's just crazy, man. Like we had stuff planned, but like someone ate a bat, whatever, and that the whole plans across the world changed like overnight. So it's good to have the tools to be able to adjust to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you have any future plans for maybe how you would do it different, or how you're going to continue to incorporate cover crops into this bed system?
I'm probably gonna, once we work into, because it's only our second year in business, but also we're doing it full time now. So what we're trying to do now is like find our market and get into some kind of rhythm. And then we'll take entire plots out of production and cover crop those plots that we've been using heavily, and let them rest for a while.
Yeah.
So great. if we had enough land, I would say ideally half of it would be cover crop, half of it would be production, and then you switch each year. But we don't. But that's kind of the market garden style. And so maybe it becomes, if we notice a bed that consistently produces things that are a little nutrient deficient, whatever, maybe we just cover crop that one bed. And then it'll be the same thing, you let it grow, and then we'll soil mow it and tarp it, and then, put some limits down, see what happens with the next crop.
Great. Yeah, well, Casey, thank you for taking the time out to talk to us a little bit about how you approach these cover crops on a smaller scale. We'll go ahead and post the videos that you've been putting out about those cover crops on the show notes. We'll also post the Sean Yednicek presentation, and that intensive, we'll repost that for people that missed it. There's a ton of good stuff in there about cover cropping. Casey, thanks again. Get after it. I know it's May. It's a busy time of the year, but thanks for taking the time out for us.
And it's fun, man. Thanks.
All right. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure to give Casey a follow on Instagram and all the places at Honeytree Farm NC. We'll put some links in the show notes. Also, make sure to follow Jackson Roulette at Stonehouse Market Farm. He will be co-hosting this summer a little bit to take the pressure off me while I'm farming full-time and he's farming full-time. So that's awesome. So give him a follow, and a thank you. Subscribe to this podcast wherever you're getting it. Rate and review it. And please sign up at patreon.com/farmerjesse. Or you can always just kick us a few bucks at Venmo to @NoTillGrowers and say, thanks, dudes. Thanks to Jackson Roulette for the interview and all the things. Thanks to Josh Satin and Hannah Crabtree for their help. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.